This is a video intended to help people navigate their way around renting in London. Now, renting can be a really good option, especially in London, because the house prices are immensely high. Also, you might be in London temporarily. Let's say you're a student or you're working temporarily away from your home country or your home city. There are so many reasons why renting is better. One of the biggest pros, in my opinion, of renting is the fact that you get to move around a lot. You get to experience different areas of London, and that's quite exciting for me. And of course, if you had bought your home, you only get to live in one place, which can be quite boring. And recently I've been on Rightmove a lot, and I feel like I've kind of mastered it. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to use Rightmove. So I'm going to bring it onto my computer, and you'll be able to see my face, hopefully, this whole time while I'm on the computer. But anyway, I'm going to start recording. So this is what the Rightmove website looks like. When you immediately go on it, it says find your happy, and you're welcomed by a search screen where it actually asks you for your postcode. And that is one of the main things that I need to reiterate, is that you kind of need to know whereabouts you want to live. You have to have a rough idea about London. So if I quickly go into Google Maps, pretty much this massive area here is London, but realistically central London is more of this, so like the A40, A406, this area here. So if you actually work around London and you're expected to go in quite a lot of the times, you're going to be wanting to situate yourself somewhere not too far away, so that you reduce your time spent on commuting, you reduce your costs associated with travel and stuff like that. However, London is an extremely expensive city. It's very, very, very expensive to rent and buy. So there are many considerations that you need to make. Living within like Zone 1, which is approximately this area here, is incredibly expensive. Zone 2 is less expensive, but you're increasing the time taken to actually go into work, so that's a consideration. And generally, the houses and the flats are nicer in Zone 1 and 2. The more you move out, maybe the area starts to get less attractive. Not necessarily the case, but it can be the case. So first of all, you want to know what kind of zones you're willing to live, depending on the pricing. So for me, working in central London, it's important for me to be within Zone 2 because I don't want to be too far away. So that kind of limits where I want to live. So in fact, I want to be close to my university. So in this search box, I will type in WC1, and here you press to rent. Now, this is the important thing, the search radius. So how far away do you want to live from your place of interest, whether it's work or it can be anything else. For me, I'm willing to, let's say, be around 3 miles. And remember, it's a radius, and it takes the straight line distance. So just because it says 3 miles away, it can often take longer because it's not, straight lines are easier. Straight lines are not necessarily how transportation works. You know, you have to go around through roads and transportation links. But now the price range. So the price range is a very, very important consideration to make because, of course, not everyone has unlimited funds and not everyone is willing to spend all their money on rent. Typically in London, the salary to rent ratio is much higher than any other parts of the world or this country. So you're expected to rent can take up to 60% of your salary. So take that into consideration, and you need to work out how much you can afford to pay on rent. And on top of rent, there are many other charges. So let's go through some of the charges. There's council tax. On top of rent, there is bills such as your electricity, your heating, Wi-Fi bills. They all add up, so that's something you should take into consideration and make sure you can afford the rent. And remember, affording is not the same as being able to buy something. So if you had £1 million in the bank and you bought a car for £1 million, you can't afford that car because you can afford to buy it, but you can't afford to maintain it, you can't afford to put petrol in it because you spent all your money. So just remember that you don't want to spend all your money on the rent. So there is a price range. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to kind of look at my price range. So that will be around £1,300 per month, where if you're not from London, that sounds like a huge amount, but it's actually not that much for London. For pricing, it's very important to understand how it's going to work out. If you want to be renting a flat, if you're on your own, the cost is going to be so much higher because it's one person contributing towards the rent. However, if you're living with a partner and there's 2 people paying for the rent, then it kind of is less on each person. So for me, I'm living with my partner, so it's kind of less, so I'm not paying the whole thing. The number of bedrooms. So this really does depend on how much you know about London and how many bedrooms you can get for the price. So for me, 1,300, realistically, that's going to be a 1-bedroom flat or a 1-bedroom house. So for me, it is going to be a minimum of 1 bedrooms because I'm not looking for a studio. So that's something that I take into consideration, because studios are essentially just one room. We have the bed, you have the kitchen, sometimes you have a shared bathroom. So for me, that's a total no-no. I can't share a bathroom with someone I don't know. So that's all things you should take into consideration. So if your budget was much lower, let's say £1,000 a month, you wanted to live in London zones 1 and 2, then possibly a 1-bedroom flat is not something that is quite realistic. Maybe you'd have to look for a studio. These things, at first, it's not obvious, but as you look around, you kind of get the hold on what kind of prices are available. So for me, I would say let's say my price range is up to £1,300 per calendar month, and I'm looking for a 1-bedroom minimum. I will put 2 bedrooms just in case there are 2 bedrooms. It's obviously, why not? Another thing to take into consideration is the month that you are looking to rent. For example, around September and October, the rent prices are incredibly high, just because there are a lot of students moving in around London, and many do prefer private accommodation. And even if they don't prefer private accommodation, universities don't accommodate students after around first or second year, so they must be moving into private accommodation. Usually a lot of students do house shares, but if you're looking to rent your own flat or house, then of course it's not a house share, but there are some certain settings on Rightmove that you have to declick in order to not find house shares, which I will show you. So under property type, it's up to you. If you want to live in a house, in a flat, in a bungalow, commercial property, or whatever, I would just leave any. Added to site, you can put last 14 days, or I usually leave any time, but you can put last 14 days just so it's the most relevant and it's not something that's been off the market and it's just listed. It's just going to waste your time. Next thing to do is to press find properties. Immediately you see one for 735 and you're thinking, wow, I can save half the money. But then you will realize that it's a flat share, it's just a bedroom. You're renting a bedroom, even though it's a large double bedroom, for around £735. And also, if you look at the postcode, it's SE15, which is right on the outskirts of your radius, so that's something to take into consideration. There is a filter tab here, and you can press don't show house share, retirement home and student accommodation. Well, before you press done, you have to think about what kind of amenities you want in your property that you want to rent. Some people need a garden, some people need parking, some people want like a patio or something. So if you really need something like a garden or parking, then you have to bear in mind that could increase the price, but also the fact that, in London, outside space is so limited. So it will raise a premium. Either it will increase the price, or the size of the flat will be much smaller. I'm going to leave this because I don't necessarily need a garden, and also parking is something that not all people are bothered to put into the description. So just if you click parking, you'll reduce the number of searches by a lot. So let's leave that. So I press done here, and now we have it. Here are the flats that you can be finding for the price range and the distance range. So for example, here's one in E1, which is kind of towards the end of the search radius as well, but I've decided I do not want to live in East London, so for that reason I can just ignore that. Or you can actually edit the area using this tool, and you can actually pick the exact areas that you want to find on Rightmove, which is a really good thing. So you can exclude certain areas that you do not want to live. For example, in East London, if you don't want to live there, you can exclude areas. And generally, what you want, if you're really looking for a flat and you only have, for me, for example, I have 3 weeks left to find a flat, then you should search this Rightmove every single day and look through the properties. But we will go through some properties and I will show you what to look out for. So randomly I'll go to this property, it's in N6. The first thing I do is open the map and look around to find the nearest train station. So it's very important for me to be connected, if I'm going to live outside of zone 1, to be connected to the underground system so that I can get into work. My commute should be less than, ideally, 50 minutes. Commute of 30 minutes to 50 minutes is fine. I do prefer a commute. It just breaks up the distance. It breaks up the day from being at home to, being at work. So for example, this property here is very far. See, 3 mile radius is actually quite large. So, there's not much on Rightmove. It goes from like 1 mile radius to 3. This is a huge difference. So this, for example, will not work for me. even though the price is nice and whatever, but this is the first thing. It's quite far from the station to begin with. It's on the outskirts of London, so in those kind of areas, like these, it's quite a long walk. Like, it's an okay area. It's not the best area because it's really far out. There's no really any big good parks around. Like even Hampstead Heath is quite far around. Regent's Park is ages away. You know, my university, I could never walk it there. Like, this would be a no-go, so I would actually quit that. And then you just go around looking at flats. For example, here's one in Hyde Park, which is great because Hyde Park is an amazing area. I would love to live there, and it's at my budget point. So here you can look at certain descriptions. So let type long term, that's fine. Some units or some properties will come unfurnished, which is another cost. If you're moving to your first property, you will need to buy a bed, wardrobes, sofa, television stand. All these things add up to the cost, desks and stuff like that, mattress, headboard, it all adds up. It's going to be another 1,000. So if you're looking for a place that is furnished, that's a consideration. Unfurnished places is just going to usually add to the cost, but if you already have all your furniture, then that's not a worry. Some places are quite negotiable, as in they will take out some furniture or leave some furniture with you. So if you're just looking for a bed or a sofa, then they'll be acceptable of that. So the place in Hyde Park, I'll show you why it's not as good a deal as it looks like, because first of all, there's no floor plan, which kind of makes you think that it's going to be a tiny place. And yes, I'm pretty sure it's a very, very tiny place. As you can see, very, very small place, very small sofa, very little things in terms of amenities, and the kitchen is just not fully fitted. So the kitchen doesn't have a stove, so you won't really be able to cook. So that's a very big consideration for me. I would want a fully fitted kitchen, and if I can't find one in the location that I want, I'll have to move out in order to accommodate the fact that that flat will have a fully fitted kitchen. So it's very important for me to have an oven, a stove, and a fridge freezer. So it looks like it only has a freezer. So as you can see, it's a very, very tiny place. The bedroom is tiny. It doesn't come with a bed. It has a nice patio, and the reason why it's so expensive is because it is in an amazing location. As you can see, it's very close to Hyde Park. It's a very, very desirable location in London. So of course, it's going to be the per square foot is going to be incredibly expensive. So I will actually quit that. Looking for more places. Let's look at this one. It comes with a floor plan, and this place is approximately 400 square, which is a decent size. It looks very nice, well done up. There's not much wrong from what I can see, because I've now become an expert at properties. Like, it looks in good condition. It has a nice sofa, it has a nice lounge. Bedroom's quite small, but it looks like that's a king size mattress anyway, so it looks fine. The kitchen is nice. It has a stove and an oven, and somewhere it might have, there's a very big kitchen actually. It's got a big dining table. So for example, this is a nice place. However, of course, when I look at the location, it's very, very far away. So location is very important, and you're just gonna have to, for me, you're just gonna have to find somewhere else. I mean, there are some flats. I'll just show you the flats that I have saved and the reason why I think they're good. So I'm just going to sign in and view some of these properties. Even if they're not on the market, I'll show you why I saved them. For example, let's just look at this place here. So this is a very nice done up place. It looks very cozy. The kitchen looks very nice. It has very good appliances. The bedroom size is very big. So one thing that I need personally is space to put a desk, because I need to work from home sometimes, also YouTube videos and stuff. So for me, that's quite important, having some space to put the desk. And I don't want to put the desk into the living room, just because the living room is for lounging and it shouldn't be used for work. And the only thing, so the floor plan, 488 square foot, decent size. So for me, size is quite important. I don't want to live in such a small environment. It's very hard to become a minimalist in a small environment. So that's something that you should take into consideration. There are so many different considerations to take, but I think I went over how to use Rightmove. So the location is very important, but there are some compromises that you need to make. So the further you are away from the center, the bigger the place will be, at the same price. If you keep price at a constant, the further you are away from the city center, the smaller the place will be. And of course, the further away it will be from a train station. However, you do get a bigger place. You get more space to become a minimalist, more space to have a nice environment where you can go and relax. In the city centre, generally, the places are much more expensive. Like you saw, the one in next to Hyde Park is very, very small. There's not much you can do, but then you do have the incredibly good benefit of being close to Hyde Park. So really, do you really need such a nice house, such a large space when you have such an open area around you? So it really does depend on what kind of person you are. For me, sometimes if I'm at my ideal location, I don't need such a nice place to go back to because I'm always in London, in the heart of London. So for me, many different considerations that you should make in order to find your perfect place in London. I hope this video has been quite useful. If you found this useful, please press like, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I do videos mostly on PhD stuff, but I do live in London and I really have a passion for living in London and teaching others about London. So make sure you subscribe. And yeah, as always, thank you for watching.